Right. So then when we talked about the member functions, we said when you create a member function, you can also have the definition of that member function inside the class as well. Or alternatively, you can just declare the member function, and outside the class, you can use the scope or resolution operator, which is the 2 columns, to get access to the member functions in order to define that member function. That's all this sort of ring a bell in terms of what we've done in the previous session. Where is it? Yeah, we have some strings that we want to declare. And this is quite similar to the code. It's actually exactly the same code that we wrote last time, right? And the string, we have a string called brand and a string called model. And then we have the year as integer. So as usual, as always, I'll just run it just to make sure that we've not had any syntax error yet, and that's it. So we have created a class, we've created our blueprint. So it means that whatever object of the card that we create, it's like a data type. This is like a data type. So if you say an integer, by default is going to have what, I don't know, 16 bytes of space or whatever byte of memory space that will contain. In this particular case, whatever object we create of this particular class will have a member called brand and model and then year. Okay, so in the code, first thing we need to do is to create an object, which we call car, and then I'll call it car object. And I'm not going to go through all the code like we did last time. So if we want the car object, in order to go into the car object, we need to use the member access operator, which is just a full stop. So that means that we've entered this particular. Now we have a variable of this or an object of it called car object, and we want to access its members. So the full stop will give us access to these members, but of the car object alone, not of this particular one. So it's just the object we've created. So then we have brand, and we want the brand to be equal to BMW. That's what we used last time. So let's use exactly the same type. So BMW, and again, I can do the same for the model and then the year. And the year should be a number, and I think what we used was 1999 or something. And then the brand, the model was X5. And I don't know jack about cars, I just know some basic stuff. Okay, so again, if I run it, no error. So what is happening at this point is we have, I don't know, do I have an online? We have our car object, and this particular car, we are just basically assigning these particular properties to its members. Does it make sense up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Great. So if we have done that, then it means we can try to print them out to see whether the changes they take an effect or not. So we can just say cout, and we can print out the brand. So the objects. The model, let's put a tab like we did previously. Let's put another tab, and let's print the year. Some new line, and then I'll run semicolon. So yeah, at this point, we actually managed to change the properties or the value, or assign, not necessarily change. We managed to assign some values to these variables of the object of this particular car. And of course, we can create as many cars as possible or as many car objects as possible. And they can have different values assigned to their member functions. Does it make more sense now? That's pretty much what we did last time. Does it make more sense now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so far we have only assigned member variables, and we want to assign maybe member functions, and I can just say print car details or print details. The print details is going to be a function that returns nothing, so it'll be void. I'm just making this up as we go in terms of what we are using. And if I run it, it's not complained yet. It's not complained yet, so pretty much means syntax-wise, we are on the right track. But you realize that I have not really given the definition for what this does. So I can define it here, just like what happens when we did functions, and basically use it to copy this one out. So I can comment out this line. What is it complaining about? Oh, car object, yeah. Because at this point, we've not created the object yet. It's only a class, right? And this function has access to these particular variables directly. So we can just use the variables as they are. Pretty much they're within the same scope, so it has access to them. So run it. Are there any errors now? No errors yet. So at this point, instead of copying out all these things by itself, I can just call the function, and I can just call the function car object dot print details, which takes no parameter, semicolon, and then I'll run it. Notice the word. So that was a bit about the member functions we were talking about earlier, okay? Okay, somebody say yes.
Yes, sir.
Good. So I want to comment out this line. So at the moment, we have no member function called print details, right? So if I run it, it'll give me an error because it can't find print details. But I want to also declare the print details in here as well, like we did before, because we just want to show there are two different ways that we can actually define the member functions. So at the moment, the class is called what? Car. So if I take the car and I take the scope resolution operator, it's just simply stepping into it so I can have access to the member function and I can define it as well. Unless I get a syntax wrong, should be okay. We've already defined it, and at this point, we've already declared it, and at this point, we are defining. Where did I go wrong? Let me see where I went wrong. No declaration remarks. Can someone see what I've done wrong? Can anybody see? Nobody wants chocolate from me. Hello. Hello.
Your C out, you didn't put it in quotes, the brand model yet.
We've got that. You mean this in bracket?
This one.
So you need to give the return data type. Who made the effort? Name yourself and I'll give you chocolate if you're in UK. Was the see out be embraced, but normally we don't necessarily put the see out embraces. I was missing out the return data type. So I think what we have just, I mean, easiest way to remember actually is if we had this as a function on its own, and then we were defining the function at the end of the main function, for example, normally we would give the return data type as well. Now let's try to find a quick way of remembering how to actually use the scope resolution operator. This is how I would say, okay, fine. If you were a function, for example, you give the return data type and you need to find the actual function that you want to define in this particular case, just as we have done. And we're expecting it to, of course, begin and then end with, I don't know, semicolon at the end of it somewhere. But then we don't know which print detail it is because we can have so many classes. So we just really want to say this print detail function that we are declaring belongs to the car class. And then inside the car, if you go into the car class, so to go into the car class to find this particular function, we use the scope resolution. So if we have a different class that also has another print detail. So let's say if we have, I don't know, a house class as well, then you can go into the house class and then you can find the print details of the house class and you still define it for it to work. Does that make sense? Does that help? Does it make sense up to this point?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I'm going to pause here to give you a bit of time to breathe before we write. We've got these members, right? We mentioned these members that we have here, like they're members of the same class. It's like classmates, right? They're members of the same class, and we have to find a way to get access to these members. I don't think this will compile with the house in there. So let me get rid of the house. I got rid of the house, make sure it compiles first. What did I do at some point? I did something at some point. What did I do? Oh, there's nothing in there. Yeah, we were explaining stuff and we ended up messing up the code. Oh, good. We're back up. Right. So we've got these members and we want to find ways that we can have access to these members, right? So how we can reach our classmates, like creating a Zoom link. As long as the classmates have the Zoom link, we can actually connect via it. So here's the thing. We have mentioned the public one. So if it is public, then any function that can access the object of the class or is within the scope of the object of the class can actually access the members that are public, as long as it's within the scope. So if we have this object, in the main function, we can have access to the brand, the model, and the year because they are defined as public. Yeah.
Sir, can you explain line 29?
Line 20. Did you just join us?
29, yeah.
Did you just join us? Were you here when I was explaining them?
No, I was here, but I am confused in line 29.
Line 20 and then line what?
No, 29, that's it.
29.
Yes, sir.
29, if you understand line 26.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is we assessing a variable. We assessing a variable. At this point, we are assessing a function. And the function is the print details, this function, which we have created and defined here or previously defined there. I was asking when you joined, so I'll know which angle to explain from. Does that make sense? The difference between line 28 and 29 is that 29 we are calling a function, and then line 28 we are basically assigning to a variable. Yeah. So if this was, let's say, I don't know, let's add a string, I don't know, called X. May or may not work, but let's see. I doubt, but let's try. Complaints because it doesn't like high as this.